In 2012, a small startup with just 13 employees was doing the unthinkable, threatening the dominance of Facebook, a global giant. Instagram wasn't just a photo-sharing app, it was on track to reshape how we shared our lives online. And Mark Zuckerberg knew it. With Facebook's mobile strategy crumbling, Instagram was winning where it mattered most, in the hands of millions of users glued to their smartphones. Zuckerberg had two choices: let Instagram steal the future of social media, or make one of the boldest moves in tech history. What followed was a billion-dollar gamble, a takeover that shocked the industry and forever changed the way we communicate. Let's go back a bit, because Instagram wasn't built overnight. It all started with an app called Bourbon, which Kevin Systrom and Mike Krieger launched in 2010. The app was about check-ins and locations, which I think is kind of weird because the app is called Bourbon. Like, what am I going to do? Check in to this Jack Daniels bottle? Anyway, they made an app that no one really asked for, but at the time, mobile apps were really starting to take off, and everyone wanted to create the next big thing in social networking. But unfortunately for Kevin and Mike, Bourbon wasn't exactly the success that they hoped for. It was way too complicated, trying to do too much stuff at once, and users weren't interested in all the bells and whistles. But they did care about one thing, and that was sharing photos. Realizing they had a potential goldmine on their hands, Systrom and Krieger made a bold decision. They scrapped most of Bourbon's features and pivoted entirely to photo sharing. And thus, Instagram was born, named after the combination of instant and telegram, because the founders wanted something simple, fast, and visual. By 2012, Instagram had exploded to over 30 million users. Celebrities, influencers, and pretty much everyone with a smartphone was hooked. Yeah, because nothing says social media revolution quite like your cousin Sarah posting her third latte pic of the day. It's just super inspiring stuff, Sarah. We're all in awe. Thanks for sharing. But while Instagram was growing at a rapid pace, Facebook was having an internal crisis. Mark Zuckerberg knew that photos were going to be key to the future of social media. And in 2011, he made it clear in internal emails that Facebook needed to dominate the photo space. In one email he wrote, "It's a really big deal that we ship this photo app quickly." And he continues to say, if Instagram continues to kick ass on mobile, and if they have a growing number of people's photos, that's a real issue for us. As Instagram's user base continued to grow, the pressure at Facebook was mounting. Internally, there were some doubts. Some executives weren't convinced that a solution like Instagram or a photo app was the right move, especially with no clear path to making money from it. And Facebook itself was still grappling with its own mobile strategy, and many wondered if taking on photos would complicate things even further. But time wasn't on their side because other tech companies were circling Instagram as well, looking to strengthen their own position in mobile. Rumor has it that Twitter, specifically Twitter's CEO, Jack Dorsey, was a fan of Instagram and had invested money in the company early on. There were even rumors that Google wanted to buy Instagram. So Zuckerberg knew that if Facebook didn't act fast, Instagram could end up in the hands of a competitor, and Facebook would end up losing its edge in the mobile-first world. Despite all the internal skepticism at Facebook, Zuckerberg saw something more, because to him, Instagram wasn't just a photo-sharing app. It was a community that had captured users' attention in a way that Facebook hadn't. For Zuck, it wasn't about immediate profits, it was about the long game, securing a foothold in the future of mobile communication. Facebook did try to make their own photo app though, but they just couldn't compete with Instagram's sleek design and simple functionality. So by early 2012, Zuckerberg's tone had changed. He wasn't just worried, he was panicking. In another internal email, Zuckerberg wrote, "Instagram is eating our lunch. We should have owned this space, but we're already losing quite badly." These emails are actually quite interesting, because the next one says, "Isn't that why we're building an Instagram clone?" And presumably Mark, who responds back, says, "I wouldn't call it a clone." But in early 2012, it had dawned on Zuck that he couldn't compete with Instagram. So instead, he reached out to Kevin Systrom, Instagram's co-founder, and said something along the lines of, "Dear Kevin, please be so kind as to let us purchase your entire company. Yours truly, Zuck the Magnificent." Okay, maybe not in those exact words, but you get the point. This was Zuckerberg starting his attempt to buy Instagram. So while Zuckerberg was eager to get this deal done, Kevin Systrom wasn't sure about selling. After all, Instagram was his baby, something that he and his co-founder Krieger had built from the ground up. So could they really hand it over to Facebook? And more importantly, would Instagram keep its identity, or would it be swallowed whole by the giant? Systrom was concerned about what would happen if he said no, because Zuckerberg had a reputation for either acquiring companies or crushing them. Systrom wondered, would Facebook go into what he called destroy mode? Destroy mode? Like he's gonna show up with a sledgehammer and start smashing Instagram servers? Kevin, buddy, relax. By the way, if you like this video and want to see more like it, then go destroy mode on that subscribe button. Nailed it! But Systrom's fears weren't unfounded, because Facebook had a history of acquiring competitors or launching rival products to crush them. So the fear was that if Instagram didn't agree to the deal, they could be next in line. And an even bigger fear was that if they said yes, they'd still be crushed. As an example, in 2009, Facebook acquired FriendFeed, a rising social media platform, only to shut it down and integrate its features into Facebook's own newsfeed. As another example, in 2011, Facebook snapped up Beluga, a group messaging app. And Beluga didn't stand a chance. Facebook used it as the foundation to create Messenger, now one of the biggest messaging apps in the world. Facebook was also known for launching rival products. And one famous example was Facebook's attempt to buy Snapchat. In 2013, Snapchat's founder turned down Facebook's $3 billion offer. So what did Facebook do? They launched Poke, an app that mimicked Snapchat's core disappearing message feature. It didn't work out as planned, but it showed Facebook's willingness to go after any competitor standing in their way. Yeah, maybe a bit unsurprising that Poke flopped. I guess you can only poke someone so many times before it all starts getting weird. The point is that Facebook was relentless. If they couldn't buy the competitor, they'd either out-innovate them or launch a competing product until they won. And with endless resources at their disposal, they could try and try again and again. After weeks of negotiation and lots of back and forth, Zuckerberg made an offer. And even though Systrom hesitated in the beginning, he took the deal. If it was due to fear of destroy mode or because the money was good is hard to say. But because of this deal, Facebook and Mark Zuckerberg secured their most strategic acquisition yet.
You've closed the Instagram acquisition.
Yeah.
But here's the twist. In 2012, Facebook bought Instagram for what seemed like an enormous price at the time. $1 billion. It wasn't just the average person who was shocked at this price, though. Many experts thought that Facebook had seriously overpaid. Tech insiders, investors, and analysts were all scratching their heads. $1 billion for an app with zero revenue and just 13 employees? People just couldn't wrap their heads around it. Instagram was just a photo sharing app. It had no advertising, no clear business model, and it was run by a team that could fit into one conference room. But Zuckerberg had a vision. He wasn't just buying an app, he was buying attention. He was buying time spent on mobile. And most importantly, he was buying the future of how people would communicate. Yeah, Zuckerberg wasn't just thinking about those selfies that Sarah took. No sir, he was looking ahead, because when people spend hours taking pictures of their food and puppies, guess what? That's hours they aren't spending anywhere else. Instagram became the go-to place for brands, celebrities, and everyday users to build their own personal empires. So what started as a photo sharing app became a cultural phenomenon that shaped how we communicate by sliding into DMs, how we consume content, but also how we shop. And Instagram's user base exploded. By 2014, just 2 years after the acquisition, Instagram had more than 300 million users, surpassing Twitter. But how did things go with Kevin? Well, after the deal was signed, Instagram stayed independent. But with Facebook's resources, it absolutely exploded. New features like Stories, IGTV, and shopping turned Instagram into a cultural powerhouse. So in our current year, 2024, Instagram has grown into one of the most used apps worldwide, and it has over 2 billion users. And that's monthly active users, by the way. Think about that. 2 billion people use the same app. at least once a month. This is really one of the best deals Mark Zuckerberg ever did, because he saw it when no one else did. And that $1 billion gamble, well, it's looking like one of the best business deals in history, because today, Instagram is valued at over $100 billion. I know that that's a really big number and it's hard to imagine what that even means, but just to try to put things a little bit into perspective, Meta's annual revenue is about $134 billion. And that's in 2023 numbers. But if we go back to 2012, when the acquisition was done, we see that Facebook at the time made $5.5 billion a year, which means that Zuckerberg actually took a pretty huge bet. So I can understand the criticism coming from analysts and everyone else, really. But if we try to look beyond the numbers and the valuations, the impact of Instagram's acquisition goes far beyond that, because it was a pivotal moment for Facebook. A moment where the company's strategy shifted from competing with emerging platforms to just acquiring them and integrating their best features. This acquisition set the stage for Facebook's dominance in the social media ecosystem as a whole, and it led the company to future deals like the acquisition of WhatsApp for $19 billion in 2014. The deal also influenced how other tech companies approached acquisitions, because startups were no longer just competitors, they were potential growth engines. The Instagram acquisition became the gold standard of a strategic buyout, with many CEOs looking at it as the ultimate lesson in capturing the future of tech. So what seemed like an outrageous bet in 2012 now looks like one of the most visionary deals in tech history. And Zuckerberg didn't just buy Instagram, he bought the future of communications, the future of culture, and ultimately, the future of social media itself. At one point, Zuckerberg was the most hated man in tech, but now he's loved by all.